What is going on, PuckHouse listeners? This is Rick Adams. Alongside me is Jack Farris. Happy birthday, Jack. We got a big birthday coming tomorrow, and we got so much to talk about, folks. There has been a crazy offseason. I mean, it is just relentless. I mean, nonstop. I feel like my phone was going to overheat or something. It's been hot out, and my phone's been firing off with notifications about all these moves. We're here to talk about it, and we can't wait to talk about it.
Rick, thank you for that awesome intro. Thank you for the well wishes on my birthday. Appreciated. Yeah, well said. Listen, we have trades galore. The draft happened. We have rumors. I mean, we are in the midst of the offseason. We're approaching free agency on July 1st, and this is the fun time of year if you're a hockey fan. I'll tell you that. You know, this is the player movement. You speculate and say this guy could fit here, and you hope your team drafts this guy, and you hope your team trades for this guy. And sometimes you're right, sometimes it goes a different direction. And we spoke about a lot of these, some of these players that could potentially get moved, and we weren't right about all of them. But yeah, Rick, I mean, I don't even know exactly where you want to start. We have, obviously the draft has concluded. We have a plethora of trades to talk about. And like I said, we're approaching free agency, which is kind of a light free agency this year, to be fair. But there are some intriguing players available to talk about. So, where do you want to start, Rick? I'm going to switch it up and let you start us out today with the topic.
Well, real quick, I want to emphasize the whole the speculation. This, like you said, this is the best time of the year for us hockey nerds, hockey fans, with all the speculation aside and predicting of who goes where this guy fits the best, where you think, oh, imagine this fantasy lineup, imagine this, playing this guy with that guy. I mean, just look at Florida's top 9. I mean, that's like reminds me of a video game right there. That's just insane. Yeah. Where to dive in first? I mean, let's just talk off the rip right now. I mean, Kyrie to Washington. Let's just start with that. I think that's one hell of a pickup. I think it works out for both parties evenly. I mean, honestly, the Blues are in a rebuild, right? I don't know what they're going to do with Robert Thomas. I don't know. They land McTavish, so it's kind of like, everything's kind of evening out. But it's great for the Caps. One last hoorah, it looks like. I don't know what's going on with Ovi. He hasn't re-signed yet. I'm sure 1st of July, maybe he resigns, maybe he doesn't. He's testing. We'll see.
Yeah, the Kyrie one's interesting. I think if anyone's listening to the last podcast, you may remember me talking about Kyrie potentially going to Canada, going to Ottawa. That's what I was thinking. He might be a good fit there. And as far as him being in St. Louis, look, this happens a lot with players in professional sports and all sports. Sometimes a change of scenery is needed. And I feel like Kyrie's been in trade talks for the past 3 seasons or so. And he had some battles with Berube, right? The coach there, and he's a skill. He could score goals. He has that offensive flair, and I think Washington needed some of that. So I think it's a good fit. St. Louis gets back Connor McMichael, who in my opinion is like an underrated player. He had that really good season, not this past season, the season prior. This season was a little bit inconsistent, but he's a good player too. And they're somewhat loaded at center, Washington, right? I mean, you got Dylan Strome, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Alexei Protas. I can't think of the fourth line center off the top of my head because they traded Nick Dowd. Yeah, and they traded Dowd, but I know they have the Protas brother, who I think plays wing, and they got some guys coming up in the system, obviously Ryan Leonard and a few other guys. But yeah, I like this for Washington, and like I said, it gives them some much needed scoring punch that they need on the right side. And I think St. Louis, it was time to just move on, and it's time for them to have their breakup and see how he does in Washington, because I'm interested to see. And St. Louis gets a pick, and they get McMichael, who maybe rejuvenates his career, and they get a little bit younger. And it leads me to the McTavish trade too. While we're on the topic of St. Louis, there was definitely rumors about the Rangers getting McTavish. I think I sent you that, Rick, on Twitter. So I don't know. I guess that deal fell apart, and he lands in St. Louis for some picks. He's a big centerman, right? He could grow with them. I believe he's 23 years old. So they get a younger centerman that could grow with them. And he was once like a very highly touted prospect for Anaheim, but kind of fell out of favor there. And I think when you look at Anaheim, a lot of it is just how much money now Leo Carlson and Cutter Gauthier are going to get. Never mind all the guys already on their books like Jackson Lacombe, and I'm sure the goalie Lucas Dostal. I'm not aware of his contract status off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be due a raise. So I think Anaheim's just getting it over with and moving off some cap space. McTavish was making $7 million a year, so they get some flexibility in the cap. And McTavish could go to St. Louis and get a fresh start. And I don't know who he'll play with, but it's a fresh start for him. So let's see where that goes.
Yeah, Jack. Excellent. It's I guess it's like a pure business decision almost in Anaheim. He was just kind of like the odd man out in a sense. I think I said that before, but it's a fresh start in St. Louis. We'll see what happens. Another guy I forgot to bring up, you brought him up, was the McMichael going to St. Louis. So that's he had like 30 goals one point with the Capitals a couple years back, I believe. He had that one good season. He had the 20. I know it was 20 plus, but he played good and then just kind of fell off. Another guy, fresh start. So maybe he's on a line with them and they're going at it. Let's see what happens. We got to bring up Alex Tuch, of course. I can't emphasize enough. Clearly a last hurrah. Maybe they're doing this to entice Ovechkin to re-sign. Maybe he voiced he wanted to just go somewhere else, which I kind of would be shocked by that. I don't want to make this all about Ovi right now, but it's maybe they're trying to do this to show him, hey, one last hurrah. This is what we're doing. Re-sign kind of cheap, and we're gonna go win that cup.
Yeah, it's a good point. It could be either way. It could be showing Ovi like, hey, we're taking a real step here and we're not retreating. Or it could be, hey, we're losing Ovi and we need to replace Ovi because we're not going to put our heads in the sand and not try to make the playoffs in a Metropolitan division that isn't really that strong, in my opinion. So you add Tuch and Kyrie at some real scoring punch. They have, their goalies playing well. They have some young players. Like I said, they're pretty deep down the middle. I think Washington's a playoff team next year for sure, especially with those two moves. They may add a defenseman or something too. You never know, but I think they're in a pretty good spot. I do like what Chris Patrick's doing over there in Washington. When you talk about Alex Tuch, I don't know. I thought this guy was definitely going to re-sign in Buffalo for sure. He was awesome for them all season. He's a hometown kid. He's from Syracuse area. We don't know. Like we could speculate. We don't know what happened behind the scenes. Like, was Buffalo lowballing him? Did they give him an appropriate offer? Or was it, nowhere near what Washington was going to offer him? Not sure. But he had the tough playoff series against Montreal where he didn't even have the 1 point, which I don't think helped his case to sign for big money in Buffalo. So, he's a big body. He could score. He could skate. He's very fast. You add him to, a line with maybe Strome and Wilson or Dubois and Wilson. I think that could be a pretty good fit there. But yeah, big money, $10.5 million. And I think that's just, that's what we have to get used to seeing, that like some of these numbers are really big for these players, but with the cap going up, $10.5 million for, a big physical forward that could skate and score goals, in a couple of years, it might look like a bargain. So, yeah, we'll see how Tuch does in Washington. I think he's still pretty much in his prime, so I don't think that's that's not a bad gamble for Washington, especially they didn't really give up a lot to get him. But yeah, Rick, that's an easy transition, I guess, into the Bowen Byram trade over in Buffalo too, which I was kind of hoping they would keep Byram, because when you look at their blue line, that's their strong point. I mean, you got Power, Dahlin, you had Byram, Samuelson. Like, they have some really good defensemen. I think it was more Byram. Like, it didn't seem like there was a lot of animosity, like he doesn't like Buffalo or doesn't want to play there. I think it was more he wanted more opportunity. Like, you're not going to surpass Dahlin. Dahlin was a Norris finalist and just an amazing defenseman. That he's like their guy there in Buffalo, right? So I think he wanted a chance to go be the number one guy. You look back to Byram when he was drafted by the Colorado Avalanche. And with the Avalanche, obviously he wasn't going to surpass Makar either, right, on that top power play. So goes to a situation in Chicago where they're rebuilding, but they're trying to make that turn, right? Like they don't want to keep rebuilding. You have Bedard there. I think you want to show Bedard that you're serious about starting to contend and maybe looking at a playoff spot. I don't know. A lot of people were saying it was a lot to give up to Buffalo, and I thought so too. But like, I kind of respect Chicago just kind of having the balls and just being like, look, we're gonna pony up a lot of assets here to get Byram, and he's our new like Duncan Keith in a sense, right? Like he's gonna get a lot of playing time. He's big. He's still young. He could skate. He's gonna be the number one guy there. It'll probably be like him and Lev Shunov. He's not blocked by players like Power and Dahlin and all these other defensemen or Makar in Colorado. So he's going to get a real opportunity there, and I think that was a nice swing for Chicago to do that. Buffalo gets a ton of assets back. They get the high pick with Dax and Rudolph. I know we're going to jump into the draft in a little while, but you get the high pick. You get some flexibility with the cap, and again, transition right into Olin Zellweger. Anaheim I was surprised they gave up Zellweger. The McTavish thing, I understood. You need the cap flexibility. You need to sign Carlson. He's definitely going to be your number one center. So maybe McTavish is expendable. You don't need to pay him $7 million. You need the money for Gautier's extensions, Carlson's extensions. But Zellweger is a young, up-and-coming defenseman that you had under team control. He wasn't even eligible for arbitration. I just felt like that's a guy they could have kept in their system. He could skate. He was, he didn't play a lot in the playoffs, but when he did, he looked good and really good offensive defenseman. Kind of not sure why they moved him. I'm starting to wonder maybe he was, maybe they were worried about the threat of an offer sheet. Other teams know their cap situation, and who knows how much Leo Carlson's going to get. Probably a lot, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 12, 13 million, 14 million, something like that, in California. I mean, I don't think, you got Gauthier too. He's going to make a lot of money. So that's the only thing I could think of when I look at that situation, like giving up on Zellweger. And I don't know if you want to pull it up, Rick. I think they got like a high second round pick back. And was it Wahlberg? Anton Wahlberg, a Swedish centerman. That was one of their prospects there in Buffalo, pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, Zellweger was promising for sure.
45th overall pick.
And okay, yeah, so I was right. But yeah, I was a little surprised by the Zellweger one, but that's the only thing I thought of on my own that like maybe there was a team out there that needs a defenseman and was willing to try to offer sheet Anaheim and give up a second round pick in the process or whatever it may be. So Buffalo Anaheim got ahead of it and moved him and just got what they wanted for him. So they pick up the extra second round pick and they don't have to negotiate with him. And I guess they could focus on Carlson and Gauthier.
Yeah, Jack. We got to talk about Bowen Byram real quick. I got to jump it back to big bad Bowen Byram. Sure. People got to put some respect on him because won a cup with the Avs. People wanted to say, "Oh, he got carried by the Avs." He got a dude's a great hockey player, and then he goes to Buffalo, and then he scores some big goals in those playoff games. Won me some money, so I love Bowen Byram. But no, seriously, Bowen Byram's. I was scratching my head like, why? But I don't want to say it all makes sense. But then they go to they draft Dax and Rudolph, and we'll get into that. But I love the move by Chicago. I was scratching my head on, but now I think you bring up like a Duncan Keith. They're trying to like redo this era. I feel like the whole Johnny Tays, Patty Kane era. Maybe they're gonna get another winger. Who knows what July 1st is gonna bring us. I like who also. I think we were talking on the phone. Bedard, like maybe Bedard's going to the GM. Like, hey, you gotta get something. Fuck the 4th overall pick. Get somebody. Yeah.
No, it's a good point. I mean, and just look around at all these superstars are starting to have a little more control than they once did. So now if what if Bedard says, hey, I don't really want to sign an eight-year extension with Chicago because I don't see this going the way I want it to go. I don't see any improvement. We talk about Dylan Larkin, Kachuk, all these guys that kind of wanted out. Jack Eichel in Buffalo many years ago, right? So Chicago's GM isn't stupid, and he realizes that, and he's probably like, if it costs me an extra second-round pick to bring in a guy that I know is really going to be a difference maker for us, then I'll do it. I'm not going to be so conservative, because that's the last thing he wants is like a Bedard that's like, I'm not signing long-term. We're not going to make the playoffs for a while. Let's face it, Central Division's not exactly an easy division either. So when you know that the players have some control as a GM, you have to be proactive and be like, okay, well, I'm going to build a team where you are making the playoffs, and I'm just going to give myself the best shot to keep these superstars. That's all you can really do as a GM nowadays. So I think it was a good swing there by Chicago, and they still have a lot in their system too. It's not like they gave up every asset that they have. They still have some good young prospects. They still have some picks. So yeah, I mean that's I can't fault Kyle Davidson, their GM, for taking that swing at all.
Yeah, no doubt about it. To win games, you got to be aggressive, right? You got to win chips. You got to be aggressive here. Not to bounce back and forth and all this, but to give my part on the Zellweger trade to Buffalo. I for Anaheim, I don't understand the actual move. I actually had to look up on Daily Faceoff like their whole defensive core, because I knew there wasn't many left. Many of the guys the familiar faces, I should say. Gudas just went to Florida. They're losing Trouba. I just didn't understand that. So, maybe they were afraid of that, so they wanted to make a move on it early. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Maybe they thought the time was right at the draft. Maybe they saw something and whoever they drafted, and we'll get into that later. But maybe that's just all it took. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, and like when you look at Anaheim's defensive core, it is that's the only thing I could think of was that maybe they were threatened by an offer sheet for one of these players, and they're just preparing themselves to match anything. Like there could be a team out there that gets aggressive and tries to offer sheet Carlson. Who knows? And they have to make sure they have the cap space for it. So maybe they're really playing their cards safe there with that, because Carlson's looks like he's like cornerstone of their team going forward. Their decor looks a little weak aside from Jackson Lacombe. I'll be honest, and then it's like Lacombe, Hellison. They don't have that's why it was like Zellweger was one of the guys that could play a bigger role once the Carlson and Trouba left, and that's why it was a little surprising to me that they moved him. But we're still in the midst of the offseason. Like who knows? Like their GM could have a trick up his sleeves. He could be making a trade for a defenseman. Maybe after he gets Carlson and Coutier extended, maybe he goes out and makes an aggressive move. We know Darnell Nurse wants to be moved out of Edmonton, and they're looking to get a deal done with him. I mean, does Anaheim get him for cheap and not have to give up too much? Does Edmonton want to move him within the division? Anaheim, I don't know. But that could be a potential fit. And the free agent, it's slim. It's slim pickings. I mean, Trouba and John Carlson are the two top defensemen that looks like on the defensive market that are available as free agents. You got guys like Nick Jensen and Connor Clifton, Jamie Alexiak. You got a few depth defensemen that maybe they could sign, but I don't think it's anyone that's really a difference maker. So I think Anaheim's not done. They do have some work to do. I think they got to get those extensions done and make sure they don't get offer sheeted. We go back to the offer sheet thing. It's a complicated process. There's always a team out there maybe that they're scared is going to be aggressive and make a big pitch, but it's also like in order to make an offer sheet, you got to have the cap space. The player has to agree to go to that team, and that team has to give up multiple picks depending on the salary in order to get the player for the offer sheet to be successful. So I don't see many contending teams that a young, good player like Carlson would want to go to that has all the money to pay him for an offer sheet and also has the picks to give up to offer sheet him. So I think the only potential offer sheet candidates would be, I don't know, maybe a Seattle Kraken, which we'll get into them, and maybe Utah. It's got to be a team that's not currently, a contender, so to speak. It's not going to be the Florida Panthers or Dallas Stars or,
I don't even think my Rangers have the cap space. Like Toronto Maple Leafs don't have the cap space. Montreal, like none of these teams that are potential contenders are gonna be able to do it. Vegas, they don't have enough picks or cap space to do it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Anaheim goes. But Rick, what do you want to get into next? You want to touch on this the William Eklund trade to Ottawa was something I wanted to get into because I was looking into Eklund a bit. San Jose gets picks back for him, right? He's a solid, underrated player, smart player. I don't think he's a Brady Tkachuk replacement by any means, but I do think that's a good fit there. I think he could fit in pretty well there. He's a smart player. He had like 50-something points last season. He's young. He could grow with that core of Stützle and Sanderson and their younger guys. What did you think about that move?
I think it's a great move for both parties in favor. Not to be the bias machine here and just keep it level and, keep it cordial. And, I just want to say that it's amazing how it all works out in a sense. Honestly, because I think you just think about, okay, Ottawa loses Brady Tkachuk. They make this deal. They kind of get the Brady Tkachuk replacement. No knock on Eklund, but not the same profile player like you just said, Jack. San Jose winds up drafting Keaton Verhoff, probably butchering the name, but it's just amazing how it all works out for like all three parties involved eventually because they got that pick from Florida there. So it's just you got Zetterlund there, and they both played on the Sharks. Zetterlund been with Ottawa for a year or two now, I think. But now Eklund joins his buddy there, and they have some chemistry, and they start cooking. Stützle there too. It's weird on paper. It's like, but like that first line's like nice. So see what happens with Ottawa. San Jose's cooking. Mike Grier. It's hats off to Mike Grier, man. What a draft. Shit, man. We there is just so much to talk about, folks. I mean, it's kind of a little overwhelming. Jack, I mean, I could just like throw a dart at this board and we could just land on something and talk about it. Seriously. Let's talk about Nichushkin. Yeah, a little change of scenery. Little change of scenery, right? Let's do a little change of pace. Mr. Valerie Nichushkin going to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Good. Hey, great hockey player, honestly. Some cup experience, some playoff experience, right? Maybe that shakes things up in Columbus's locker room. They got some Russian players there, and maybe they see some fellow buddies, and it starts clicking over there. Jack, what do you got on this?
Yeah, listen, Nichushkin, he was a big part of their first cup. When Colorado won, like he was a big part of that playoff run there and played unbelievable. Then he had some personal issues, some personal struggles and stuff like that. I know he was away from the team and with the substance abuse program, I believe, some sort of rehabilitation program. Look, I think this is a little bit of like, I think Joe Sakic, the GM, was saying like he's proud of Nichushkin for taking the steps to correct his life and stuff, and he was a good player for them. He's a big power forward guy, and the thing I think about with Nichushkin and Columbus is we've all heard the rumors now, right? If you're a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, about the potential Kirill Marchenko trade and stuff like that. You have Ivan Provorov there. You have Kirill Marchenko. Is this Columbus kind of getting another Russian in there to make them a little more, comfortable, I guess, like a little bit of familiarity, I would say. But you're also getting a player that's motivated to have a fresh start, change of scenery. He might get some more playing time over there in Columbus. And, Columbus is in a bit of a troubling spot, to be honest with you. They're, there's the Zakharensky rumors, Marchenko rumors. They haven't made the playoffs in quite some time. And I believe since the bubble during COVID, right, Rick, if I'm not mistaken. The only playoff series they've ever won was in 2019 and when they swept Tampa Bay Lightning that year. They had Panarin at the time and Tortorella, but not to get too off topic with that. But look, I think it's really just Columbus doing what they can to add a player to potentially try to make the playoffs next year. Seriously, I mean, I think they're just trying to take that next step and show Werenski and Marchenko that they're serious and they want to make the playoffs. They want to improve. They want to be a contender. And those are the things you got to do. You got to take a little risk sometimes. And, I think Nichushkin could be a good fit with Marchenko and Voronkov and some of these Russian players they have. Maybe they have some chemistry. They speak the same language. Maybe they played together in Russia at some point. I'm not too sure about all the details with that. But, yeah, I don't hate this for Columbus. And the Colorado side of it, Rick, I'm thinking, like, they're kind of opening up some cap space, right? You move Ross Colton, you move Jack Drury, you move Nichushkin. Do you think, a question for you, Rick, do you think this cap space they're accumulating, you think it's strictly, like, do you think they have a plan for it? Like, are they going to make a big move or big trade or something like that? Like, I do know Makar is due an extension not this summer, but next year. Maybe they're just getting ahead. Like, they know Makar is going to make a ton of money, right? He's probably the best defenseman in the league. So is he going to just make a ton of money and they're just getting prepared for that big extension they're going to have to pay him? It's probably part of it. But do you see Colorado improving their team with this cap space they have? Because they probably got, I don't know, it's got to be like over $10 million in cap space now.
Yeah, Jack, according to Puckpedia, it says 5.6 mil. I mean, you brought up the Makar extension. We had to look that up because I don't know shit right now. And that he's due, and I think it's exactly that. I don't think it's too complicated. You gotta re-sign him. It's not like they signed Brett Kulak and they're gonna let Makar walk next season. Of course, they're gonna re-sign him. I think it's just that, getting ahead of the game. Who knows what happens? Maybe some more moves once July 1st hits. I can't even seem to really get into the whole who's going to go where with Colorado when they have that tight cap and everybody's asking for like a $5 million at least. It seems like, it's pretty intense how I wouldn't even be shocked if they try to sign Anders Lee and try and get just add another depth piece and really just put them on the line with frickin' Nelson. Put them on the line with Nelson, honestly. If Lee's gonna walk, I have a whole segment about that, but I don't know why wouldn't they? That's just the way I look at it.
I like that connection. I didn't think of that Anders Lee to Colorado. I was connecting him to Minnesota just because he's from there, but that is a good. Look, Colorado's going to be a contender next year. That's for sure. I'm sure Lee wants a chance to win. He's buddies with Brock Nelson, and they're both from Minnesota. Who knows? Maybe that is that might be Rick's picks right there. Who knows? But so I think that's enough there on Colorado. Rick, we'll obviously we'll update you guys next week once we cover free agency. I'm sure within the next week or so, there's going to be more trades and signings, and we'll have answers to this at that point. But I thought the one trade that came out of nowhere, in my opinion, was the JJ Peterka trade. And what interests me about that is, not to throw dirt on Utah right now, but you think about Josh Doan and Michael Kesselring to Buffalo last season around this time for JJ Peterka. They signed him to that extension. He hasn't really 1 year in Utah and very inconsistent. Didn't really work out there. So they move him to Boston for picks. What'd you think about that? You think he's a good fit in Boston? If I feel like Boston, if anything, like they need centermen. Like they have a pretty good blue line. You got Lindholm and McAvoy and Lowry and Zadorov. Like their blue line's not bad. I was thinking they may need another center. Is Morgan Geekie going to be your number one center? I guess you got Elias Lindholm, but yeah, I guess maybe there's no centers available, and they thought Peterka could fit well into their system and get back to the player he was in Buffalo. Because if you do remember when he was traded from Buffalo, a lot of teams were interested. He was a hot commodity for trades, and Utah landed him, but just didn't work out. And sometimes you just need that change of scenery.
So I think that this is a good move for the Bruins and just bad for Utah. Not to just take a crap on Utah here, but I mean seriously, I think the Bruins were like, to me, like I said, the New York Rangers were in a weird spot. The Bruins are like in a weird spot. They have Pasternak. You got Morgan Geekie coming off a career high, unbelievable year. You got Pavel Zacha, who's doing solid. I mean, just a solid two-way centerman. Seriously, underrated, honestly. And now they land Peterka. I think it just as simple as it is, it didn't work out in Utah for whatever it was. Chemistry, behind the bench, locker room, who freaking knows? We'll never know. The fact of the matter is that I think it's a good pickup by the Bruins. I really wouldn't shock me if he just scores 30. I mean, you're playing with Pasternak, you know. I don't know, man. Who's the setup guy when Pasternak's the goal scorer there? But who knows? I just think that Boston needed to make a move, and it was kind of like a sneaky under the radar move. And I think we're going to be maybe looking at this halfway through next season, going like, "Wow, what a move!" Honestly, I think I'm high on this. This is we wanted to bring up Rick's pick. I'm kind of high on this. I like this move for the Bruins.
Yeah, and you also, when you think about it, Marco Sturm is their coach. You got the German connection there with Peterka, too, so that's something interesting to think about, too. Maybe he's really familiar with his game and how to say in that. But, all right, well, enough on Peterka. We'll see what happens there in Boston. They are an interesting team. It leads me to the Rangers, who I think in a lot of ways are similar to the Boston Bruins because, you look at Boston, you have Charlie McAvoy, number one defenseman, very good defenseman. Jeremy Swayman, very good goalie. Pasternak, superstar winger. Rangers kind of have that now in Pavel Dorofeyev, right? And they have the good goalie, and they got Adam Fox, the number one D-man. This one I was not expecting. I was expecting Dorofeyev to get moved or potentially offer sheeted because you just know Vegas is up against the cap. Probably didn't want to pay him $11 million. I'm sure they offered him something, but look, this guy's 25 years old, back-to-back. I think he had 35 and then 37 this past year. I'm just curious, can he do it with New York? Were some of his goals a product of Mitch Marner, Jack Eichel, Shea Theodore being in a good environment there with good players? Will he be able to do the same on the Rangers? Hopefully. I still think like overall it was a good trade for the Rangers, and he gets $11 million for 7 years. Look, like he's one of those guys you could just depend on for a goal. Like he scores at those weird angles and good power play guy, and even in the playoffs, he just kept coming up with big goals. I literally was calling him Pavel Dorofeyev. So didn't see my Rangers making the move for him. I couldn't have forecasted that, but I did see him getting moved, and it's cool to see him go to the Rangers, and it could be a good fit. Not to make it about nationality, but they say a lot of Russians like New York and stuff like that. It's like a pretty big Russian community here, so that might be part of it. You got Igor Shesterkin and Gavrikov. You got some fellow Russians on the team. So he has his own little familiarity with that. But yeah, we'll see. I think the weird part for the Rangers with me is like they're kind of like in a one minute they're rebuilding, 1 minute they're not, and it's like I guess the more I think about it, Dorofeyev's young enough where he can grow with the team. It's not like they signed a 32-year-old guy. Like he's 25, so he has a lot of runway in front of him. So I think he's going to fit in just fine. And now that you go and do that, it's like you almost want to see them keep Trocheck, who's another name that's still, hasn't been traded, has been in trade rumors with these other guys that we keep talking about, like Larkin and Hellebuck and all them guys. So, at this point, it's like maybe keep Trocheck and see what happens next year. Let's see if everyone bounces back. Maybe you get a healthy Adam Fox all year. You get Igor playing really well. Mika played pretty good last year. Maybe he has another good year, and Dorofeyev scoring and Trocheck. Maybe you take Will Cooley takes a step. Maybe Gabe Perreault takes a step. You got these guys that all take a step. I mean, the Rangers could be in the playoffs next year. It's the more I look at it, it's maybe you shouldn't rebuild. But yeah, I think good fit for the Rangers, and good on Drury for taking a swing. And I think, $11 million for a guy that scores 35, 37 goals every year that's the going rate. I think players are asking for much more than that. So,
yeah, well said, Jack. I mean, seriously, I think $11 million. Seriously, $11 million for a goal scorer this consistent. We've seen it, right? He's proved it. So it comes down to this: like the cap's going up. I can't stress it enough. Cap goes up, this all kind of evens out. This is great. I think it's going up 8.5. Rangers still have $15 million in cap space. I wouldn't even be surprised if they make a splash at frickin' Rasmus Anderson or somebody. Is he worth the money that they'll throw him? Who knows? We'll see. Yeah. I mean, seriously, maybe everybody takes a step up, and good for Drury getting aggressive. Seriously, I was saying. The Rangers are this weird team right now where what direction are they going to go? Because they kind of could go either or. And we're gonna stay tuned and see what happens. And they land a trade like this. And honestly, I did not that trade wasn't on my radar at all. Like I did not think the Rangers would land him at all. Honestly, it's funny, man. Like we talk about GMs sitting on their hands. Like I think Drury made a statement with this trade, maybe either saving his job, maybe he was in jeopardy. Who knows? But like, this is an aggressive move and just a message to all the New York Ranger fans. I would be excited as a New York Ranger fan if for all those New York Ranger fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, you have James Dolan, the owner of the Rangers, also owns the Knicks. He just seen the Knicks win and how, Manhattan erupted over that in a good way. And, he wants the Rangers to be good too, I'm sure. And the Rangers have never been like a full, let's tear it down, rebuild and start, they don't have the patience for it. Typically that market just doesn't. They like to be in the playoffs. They want to be, they want to be the Broadway, the big, the flashy team. And that's how they roll. So let's see what happens with the Rangers. They do have cap space. I'm just not sure what they're going to do. Like, I don't know. Now, does it make sense to trade Trocheck for a pick and some prospect that, like, hasn't proven anything yet? In my opinion, now it doesn't. I think you should try to keep Trocheck. I like him a lot. He's versatile. He kills penalties. He's, scores goals. And he's on a good cap hit. He makes $5.6 million. I mean, that's a bargain in today's NHL's cap world. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see if the Rangers do anything in free agency. But yeah, good on Drury for taking a swing, and hopefully Dorofeyev's a good fit there. And talk about other GMs that are starting to make a little bit of noise. I did see, I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about, Rick, but the first thing for some reason that came to my mind is Steve Yzerman, Detroit Red Wings, making the Sebastian Cossa trade. I don't like they move him to Utah, which I like to move for Utah because you got Karel Velmelka there that has been pretty solid, but they don't really have like a goalie that has like a ton of potential there that is like the next guy coming. And now Cossa is going to get a real shot, I think, in Utah. And I do like that for them. Detroit gets the 23rd pick, I believe, who they picked J.P. Hurlburt with that. I don't know much about him. I'm not going to pretend to. I haven't watched him play, but obviously Detroit likes him. I just wonder about this one because it's like for the longest time we gave Steve Yzerman credit for like building through the draft, developing players, and that's how he was going to do it. And the ownership had the patience with that for that. He had a plan. But now it's like Cossa doesn't even get a shot to play really because you have these veteran goalies in there instead, like Cam Talbot. So that they were caught in a hard place. Like they want to make the playoffs and be competitive, but you have these players that you're drafting and developing, and it's the reason you weren't aggressive in the first place. You didn't want to give those picks up in the past to get players to help you get into the playoffs because you wanted to draft guys like Cossa, and now he doesn't even get a shot, and you're trading him for a late round first pick. I don't know how it's going to go for Detroit. And I know we've spoke about Larkin quite a bit on this podcast already. He still hasn't moved. I seen that Yzerman was interviewed at the draft and said, Dylan still has 5 years left on his contract. And he's not going to trade him unless he gets the package he wants. And I don't know. I think that's easy to say now. When training camp approaches, I don't know if you're going to want to bring your captain back in and strip the C off him and put him in the lineup. I don't think that's good for anyone. I don't think it's good for Detroit. I don't think it's good for Larkin. So I do think he'll end up getting moved. It's just a matter of when, and maybe, Yzerman might have to swallow his pride a little bit and just move on. But, yeah, Detroit's interesting in their own way, and I do like that pickup for Utah.
Yeah, I think it's a great pickup for Utah there. Much needed goalie. I think that hopefully it all works out. I feel like that team has needed a goalie for quite some time. It's hey, maybe he's the real deal. I know in the franchise mode world, he winds up being pretty good. Yeah. That's my expertise right there. No, but seriously, yeah, it's an interesting trade. Why I don't understand. If he got a rostered player back and not a late round pick and drafted another guy you want to try and develop, maybe you try and get a rostered player to keep Larkin for all you know. Not really sure exactly why. It just doesn't make sense. As simple as that. It's like head scratching. I brought that up before. I don't know. I don't want to freak out and say what is Yzerman doing? What is Yzerman doing? But it is weird though, like you brought up a great point, and I can't stress it enough. Like once you said it, it all kind of clicked in my head. It's like you're trying to wheel and deal Larkin, or you're trying to keep him. I wouldn't blame you for wanting to keep him. But then you go and do this. I just don't get. Doesn't even get a shot. Doesn't you just see you later? You don't even get a rostered player back to try and hey Larkin, I just got this guy. Come on and hang out and stay and play. But we'll see what happens. See what the outcome is. Speaking of head scratcher, I thought it was strange to me that Simone Nemec goes to Calgary Flames. I thought we talked about it last pod. We didn't. We could dive into it right now briefly. The details were Maxim Siplikov and some picks, and I just don't. I guess it's as simple as he didn't want to play there, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's right. And then he just gets shipped off to Calgary. I mean, that's what the trade was. That's what it was. It's not like he signed there, I guess good for the Devils getting more picks, but I think I remember doing the draft episode a couple of years back, and I was liking Nemec. So we'll see what happens. Good for Calgary. I think it's a good pickup for Calgary, but maybe an overpay. I like Nemec, but 2 first-rounders and a second-rounder, and I don't know. We'll see we'll see how this pans out. It's a weird trade for me. I don't have too much to say on it, honestly.
Yeah, listen, Rick, I don't disagree with you fully. I just think, New Jersey has a new GM there in Sonny Mehta, and I think he's kind of trying to put his own stamp on the organization as far as like what prospects are in the system. So I just feel like it's probably. I mean, personally, I think Luke Hughes is their guy. Like he's gonna run the power play, and that's their plan. You got Hughes. There was a lot of talk about Hamilton getting traded, maybe with the new management staff. Like maybe Hamilton stays and they keep him, and you got Brett Pesce, Siegenthaler. Their bottom pair I can't think of off the top of my head, but I think it was an opportunity for this guy Sonny Mehta, the new GM of the Devils, to either take these picks and get players he wants in the system, like that he scouted or that he liked, or maybe is it them acquiring assets to then trade? Maybe he has something up his sleeve and he wants to make a trade and realizes, hey, we got Luke Hughes. He's going to be our guy on the power play and everything. And, I don't know. They did get a good amount of picks back. So it'll be interesting to see what Jersey does if they just hold on to those prospects, or if they're looking to, hey, we don't want to pay Nemec all that money. We have a different plan, a different trade up our sleeve maybe. But you got to like it for Calgary. They take a bit of a swing, and they don't even give up their own pick too. That's how many picks they had. I think it was Vegas's pick from the Anderson trade. So it wasn't even their own first-round pick. So they're able to add a legit right-shot defenseman and start kind of building back to a team. And, Nemec is young, and if he wants to be in Calgary, that's a good thing because now they got you start rebuilding that defense a bit. You lose Uyghur and Anderson to trades last year, and you acquire assets. Now you get Simon Nemec, a much younger, high-potential right-handed shot defenseman that could fit in their system for the long term, and you don't even give up your own first-round pick to do it. I like it by Calgary. Calgary taking a little bit of a swing, and that's what, these managers are trying to rebuild their team a little quicker than, they see. They don't want to be bad for 10 years. They want to start turning the turning the corner a little bit, not being in the bottom of the league, and maybe they start making the playoffs once they make some other shrewd moves like that. But I like it for Calgary, and not sure why New Jersey didn't like them, but I just think, you get a little more flexibility and you put some prospects in the system that they like. And like I said, maybe they're planning on making a trade, Jersey, and using their own picks now to do something else and add something else. I don't know if that's a defenseman or are they taking a swing at Jason Robertson? Who knows? It could, there's a lot of things that could be going on there. But what do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I think with the market not being too flashy. I mean, I know they got $11 million in cap space. Just look that up there. I don't think they're just going to throw the bag at somebody on this kind of market. I think you might be spot on with the trade there. Maybe they acquire picks and they go after somebody. Who knows? Maybe the Robertson. Maybe it's exactly that. who knows, man? I actually like that. Maybe, man, Robertson with Jack Hughes playing. That would be nice, man. No, honestly, I think you. Like I said, I was scratching my head. I'm like, well, it doesn't make sense. And I was listening to your breakdown. Actually, I like that. Sonny Meta there, basically putting a stamp on his rebuild or whatever this is, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they have Jack Hughes. I don't think he could rebuild. I mean, I know he's young, but you always got to plan to win. I don't think he plans to make picks in the next draft. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, and I guess we'll move on, Rick. Is there any other trade? I know we had like Jack Drury got traded to the Predators from Colorado. I know we spoke a little bit about that. I know it's a smaller trade, but they also extended him too. So, we might have even spoke about that in the last podcast, the Drury trade, to be honest with you folks. But I just found it interesting because I was reading today that they extended him to like 5-year deal. So it goes to show you that Nashville's GM obviously has a lot of trust in him. And I'm pretty intrigued with Nashville, actually, to see what they do in the offseason. I actually think of, if we were looking a little bit at the free agency market, you got Jacob Trouba. I heard he wants to go east to, closer to home, I guess. And you got to wonder if maybe Nashville's a fit for him. I know he's like really close with Brady Shea, who plays there, and he played with him growing up. And I feel like he's a good Nashville fit, big right-hand physical defenseman. I don't know. But there's there was a few smaller trades today. Radko Gudas got traded to Florida. His rights got traded to Florida in exchange for AJ Grier going to Anaheim. So it's kind of funny, like another defenseman Anaheim trades for, and they get a forward. Yeah, I feel like if anything, they need defensive help right now. But that's interesting. Gudas goes back to Florida. I mean, Florida is just looking like a big bully squad. They are not going to get bullied around. That's for sure. They're ready for the Battle of Florida. That's going to be an interesting. I'm very excited for the first Florida versus Tampa game. I'm very excited to see that. But, yeah, Rick, I mean, we had just a plethora of trades, the draft. We got rumors. You had Brandon Carlo go from Toronto to St. Louis, so they pick up a defenseman. I feel like that might have been a defenseman Anaheim could have grabbed for cheap, right? I mean, I think he makes $4 million or so, but yeah, St. Louis too. Like, they pick up some players. Like they're trying to stay competitive. They moved Kyrou, but they did some things I liked. I mean, McTavish was a good move. You got McMichael, so you had some younger players. Now you got Carlo, and you still got Cam Fowler there, and Parayko, and yeah, they're not a bad team. We'll see what happens. It's a tough division, but is there anything in the draft you want to speak of? I mean, obviously we've seen Gavin McKenna get drafted first overall to Toronto. Justin Bieber is the one that announced his name, which I thought was kind of cool. But Stenberg goes to San Jose. That was kind of consensus, right? But yeah, I mean, my Rangers take Albert Smits, who a lot of people were high on. They're saying he might be the most NHL-ready player, especially defensively. He played for Latvia in the Olympics and looked pretty good for a young kid, so that's exciting. I'm excited to see him. He might be a stalwart on our back end for a long time. So, the draft is the draft. I mean, we could break down every pick for you guys, and we could pretend we know. The thing is, we see highlights. I'm familiar with some of the players just from doing a little research, but I haven't watched these guys play in person. Like, none of it, we're not scouts, so I couldn't tell you, like, hey, like, the Rangers should have taken Chase Reed instead. I have no idea. It's like you look back on history of any draft, too. There's always a team that reaches for a guy, and then people freak out on social media and say, oh, why'd they take him? They should have taken him. And then it ends up being a smart move. Or it goes the other way, right? I mean, look up the Cale Makar draft. How many people passed on Cale Makar? Moritz Seider in Detroit. That was a smart pick by Detroit. They take Seider. Everyone was like, what are they doing? They should have taken, I forgot who it was, Alex Turcotte maybe, who's in L.A. It happens every year. At Anaheim, they reached for Beckett Seneca. He looks great. Like, so some of these scouts really know what they're doing. So do they get it wrong sometimes? Sure. But it's always kind of a crapshoot, and it's like unfair to say, oh, why wouldn't you take this guy when he was still available? It's all, we don't know, like I'm not a scout. Rick's not a scout. So we just know based on like the consensus, what it's saying. We could, watch some highlights and stuff like that. But I think a lot of the people saying like, oh, Rangers should have took Chase Reed. He was available. It's like, how do you know Chase Reed? Chase Reed could be the next Quinn Hughes for all I know, or maybe he'll barely crack the NHL. Like you don't know yet. It's tough to tell, and it happens every year. There's a player that's very hyped that doesn't pan out, and there's a player you didn't really hear much about that turns into a very good player. So the draft is very volatile. That's what makes it interesting, but it's also one of the reasons we're not breaking down every pick because, there's some guys like I like Daxon Rudolph in Buffalo was a good pick, I think, but like once again, I haven't seen him play a lot. Like Verhoff to San Jose, getting another defenseman with the 9th pick, and you still got Stenberg, who's the consensus number 2. I feel like that's smart, but it's all, we just don't know. We'll see. I think the more interesting part was all the trades because these players, like these players getting traded, you already know their abilities. So we'll see what happens. I was really waiting for Larkin Hellebuck trade during the draft. That's what I thought I was going to see, and instead we got Dorofeyev.
Yeah, exactly, Jack. I want to touch on that. I was wrong really thought that Larkin would get traded by the draft, during the draft, first round of the draft, something like that, and nothing happened. So Rick's picks was wrong. It is what it is. But we move on to more picks. But speaking of picks and draft picks, it's funny. I think San Jose just nailed it in that draft. I know, we don't know what we're talking about. I mean, seriously, but by the consensus, right, it looks like, that's like an A++ as ESPN said, right? Yeah. It's funny. It's Mike Grier, former player. Gotta love it. I remember doing the podcast in 2022 when he first got on board with them, and we're like, I love this hire. I just grew up watching him, and it's just funny, man. It's just great to see former players going to the management and then start cooking like this. Yep. You could argue Celebrini fell in their lap and all this stuff, but all the other added moves, other added moves, getting a guy like Kiefer Sherwood there. I don't know. They're Mike Grier's cooking. I can't emphasize it enough. They wind up getting a guy Ryan Lynn. I want the Islanders to get him, but they got Malte Gustafsson, nice Swede. Looks like Moritz Seider, like a play style. Let's see what happens. Shit, man. Ryan Lynn going to the San Jose Sharks as well. You got they drafted another defenseman, the 7'1" guy. I thought he was going to go to Toronto. I thought Toronto was just going to take a stab at him. I don't know, why wouldn't you want that? So it's something to watch, right? You don't see that too often. You've seen Zdeno Chara, and that was like it, man. I mean,
he could be the next Chara.
Maybe he's the next Chara, maybe not, right? Who knows?
Foot speed. A guy that big, it's tough to get around sometimes.
Yeah. Who knows what happens? But geez, man, one guy we could talk about. Really cool story was the Jackson Cover story. That was growing up playing roller hockey in the Cayman Islands. Not many ice rinks over there, and hey, sick player, right? And somebody said, get this kid on ice, and now look, man. That's just a crazy story. I love it. I think it's amazing. It's stories like that grow the game. And I can't emphasize it enough. I mean, not to get this all about roller hockey, but it's just amazing how you got that form of roller hockey being played on the Cayman Islands, and then they get him on ice, and then he's now in the NHL. I mean, think about how many other athletes are out there that just don't play and don't have access to these things. So it's hey, make equipment cheaper, folks. It could be tons of crazy other athletes that we don't even know about that could be playing, and it's a beautiful thing, man. Seriously, it's if everybody's not too familiar, look up his story, because it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a great story, Rick. I'm glad you brought that up because growing up playing roller hockey in the Cayman Islands, that's pretty cool, and to now be in the NHL and see that through as a dream and just kind of crazy. I mean, think about what if he never tried to play roller hockey? Like, he would have never been in the NHL. Like someone, shown interest, just like we as young kids were shown hockey through family members and stuff. It's an incredible story. It's true. It's like when people have access to try something, it makes it easier, and it's pretty cool. And just it could go for anyone too. I mean, if you grew up near a mountain, and you grew up snowboarding or skiing, you're probably going to become good at skiing. But if you don't have access to it, you're not going to know about it. You're not going to try it. For any sport, you grew up near a golf course, you might try golf, and for him to take playing in the Cayman Islands to this level, to be drafted in the NHL, pretty cool. Definitely pretty cool.
Absolutely. Good luck to him and all the other, players that got picked. I want to talk about the Ruck twins getting drafted to Pittsburgh. I think that's awesome that they got those two. It's like the Sedin twins 2.0, right? Now we got this generation of twins playing. Really cool. I think it's really cool for Pittsburgh fans, especially with the big three coming towards an end. Once those guys, I guess, retire, maybe these guys start playing. I don't know if they're playing right away. I think they're playing one more. I think they committed to one more year in juniors. Am I crazy? They might have. I don't.
Yeah, I forgot the senior yachters, maybe.
I think it was the medicine hat type.
Okay.
What is it? Medicine hat? Yeah. So anyway, that's cool. I like that. I think that's the next gen just coming in, and one of the big three, last hurrah, see what happens. Maybe this could bring us into Pittsburgh Penguins real quick.
Yeah.
And Anthony Mantha. I think they should resign him.
He was a good fit there.
He was a good fit. 20 goals. It's guaranteed. Consistent, right? So-and-so. Why not? You have the big three there. You got these two twins, right? You got those two kids coming up. Re-sign Mantha. I don't know the current cap space, but seriously, make a move. Get aggressive. Why not?
Yeah, I think so. Pittsburgh is very interesting for me because you trust Kyle Dubas. I think he's done some smart things, right? He's very analytically driven. A lot of players have gone there and worked out that maybe have not worked out in other places, right? When I look at Pittsburgh, like their core, obviously Crosby, Malkin, Brian Rust, Carlson, Letang, a lot of these guys are older, and I think it's inevitable that Pittsburgh is going to have to rework that blue line at some point. I know they have some prospects, right? Like I know they got like Owen Pickering and Jake Levinovich that I think they're pretty high on. But Pittsburgh's a weird one because it's like, do you continue with this build through the draft and like developing these guys and getting like, they kind of took some guys that needed to be moved, like a Sam Girard out of Colorado, and Shinnikov is a guy that left Columbus that didn't want to play in Columbus or didn't think he was getting enough playing time. And I think Kyle Dubas is pretty smart at identifying players that will fit into their system. And you're learning from the best hockey player of our generation so far, Sidney Crosby. I mean, you could make the argument McDavid is, but Crosby certainly has accomplished more. So to learn under his tutelage, like leadership and everything like that, I'm with you, Rick. I think if you're going down the road of like we're gonna keep going for it because we have Crosby, if you are going down that lane, just go down at full force. Maybe take a swing at someone big, and maybe they're trying to. Is Jason Robertson a play there? I mean, I think back to Kyle Dubas, the GM of Pittsburgh. I mean, he drafted Nicholas Robertson in Toronto, so I'm pretty sure he's familiar with the family. I know Nicholas Robertson didn't turn into the player Jason was, obviously, but does he take a swing on Robertson? Could Werenski land there? There's a lot of rumors. I don't know if Werenski would go to Pittsburgh or not. I don't think that would be his first choice, but I could be wrong. I would like to see Pittsburgh do something. We don't have a lot of free agents out there. I mean, we spoke about Trouba. Tucker already got signed. Like a lot of these guys are already signed, right? So I think a lot of things are going to be done by trade, and the guys that are on free agency are more complementary or depth pieces. Aside from John Carlson, who was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes. We didn't really bring that up yet, but his rights were traded to Carolina, and that would probably be a good fit for them. But to stay on the Pittsburgh topic, yeah, they're still good, but I just think like you're kind of hoping a lot of things go right again next year. You're hoping like these guys stay healthy, number one. Carlson, Letang have good years again. What are they doing in goal? Like, are you letting Joel Blomqvist play, or are you keeping Stuart Skinner, who looked good at points in Pittsburgh, I thought, but is he going to get better, or is that just what he is, kind of a somewhat inconsistent goalie that has good games and then goes on a stretch where he has bad games? So they're in the mushy middle, I would call it, Pittsburgh. They made the playoffs, but they got beat by Philly, and Philly they're on the come up. They're good, but they're not great. It's not like Pittsburgh got beat by, Carolina. Like they were beat by Philly. Like if you can't get through Philly, I think you got some questions to answer. So I think if they don't make any if they don't do something like bold, like get Robertson or something that we're not seeing right now on paper, like maybe there's a trade out there that we're not even thinking about that they make, where do they need the most help? I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously Crosby, Malkin, you already got. Maybe a defenseman. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I do think they should keep Mantha. I don't know how much he's asking for. I can't imagine he's asking for crazy money. He's already a veteran. He fits in well there. I'm sure he likes it there. And they have a lot of cap space. Could just, even if he wants $5.5 million for a couple years, I would do it if I'm Pittsburgh. I think he's a good fit.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. That's the whole point of why I bring it up, and you nailed this, man. Seriously, we looked it up. According to PuckPedia, they got like $38 million in cap space, $28 million in cap space. I mean, that's a shit ton of that sounds like too much. I don't know if that's an error on PuckPedia, but
a lot of guys on entry level.
Yeah, a lot of the guys on ELC deals. But hey, with that cap, maybe they throw a bag at Bobrovsky, right? He's UFA.
Yeah, he might.
Right? Maybe they throw the bag at him. Maybe they have some goalie issues, right? We know how good he is.
Yeah.
Despite his age, we know how good he is. So maybe they throw the bag at him and get some complimentary guys. I mean, seriously, I who knows what the answer is? Who knows what Kyle Dubas is cooking up? Stay tuned. Is Trocheck a fit? You bring that up. I mean, I wanted to talk about Trocheck before, not to jump all over the place, but I feel like the Rangers, you can't move on from him now. You can't move on from him when you got a guy like Pavel score a few more now. So, but back on to Pittsburgh, I think they got to throw the bag at somebody. Seriously, it's while you have the big three still. I mean, why wouldn't you? Exactly that. I said it before, kind of repeating myself, but I think yes, in a weak free agency, it's going to come by trade. So maybe they do acquire Jason Robertson. Who knows? That would be a good fit. Yeah. You brought up Seattle earlier. They tried to throw the bag at him, and also and acquire him through trade, but it just didn't happen. Didn't want it. So maybe he'll go to Pittsburgh. Who knows? Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, it's the only reason I brought up Trocheck is because he's a Pittsburgh native. Like he grew up there, and so if he still likes that area and has family there and stuff, maybe that's a fit. And I could see him fitting in under Malkin and Crosby. Like it's something I just think Pittsburgh needs more if they're gonna compete and they want to really take a swing at this again. Like they need more than what they have. Sure, their young players like Ben Kindle and these guys taking a step will help, but I just think they need more. If you really want to compete with the big dogs, the Floridas, the Vegas, like these star-studded teams like Pittsburgh, they're going to be asking for so much to go their way. Again, like I said, Crosby staying healthy all year and playoffs, which that's all. He's getting older. Malkin to stay healthy. Letang, Carlson, their goaltending's kind of iffy. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe they, like we were talking about, they take a big swing at Jason Robertson. Maybe he's willing to sign there. Maybe Dubas isn't afraid to spend a lot of money on Robertson. He's done it before in Toronto with Marner and Matthews and all those guys. He's not afraid to hand out big contracts when it's necessary. But yeah, maybe he's smart and he takes on like some players that teams are up against the cap and they need to move a player that's a solid player, kind of like they did with Girard in Colorado and some of these other guys. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Pittsburgh. It'll be interesting to see because the time will come, like if next year they're out of the playoffs, like you just got to wonder, like, do they do a full rebuild and trade Crosby and stuff like that? And everyone asks that question in the hockey world, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, Rick, I mean, I know you brought up Patrick Laine is also a free agent. Like, I don't know. He's had some issues, right? Like, he didn't play in Montreal in the playoffs. Like, he doesn't seem, I don't know what it is. I'm not going to pretend to know. I could see someone giving him a cheap deal, and he is a free agent, right? He's not still under contract in Montreal. I believe it ended. Yeah, he's UFA. So, he's a Finnish guy. He's big. He could score goals, but he's like kind of one-dimensional. Like he he doesn't really play physical or kill penalties or, he's either scoring or he's not. So, like, would he fit in a system where someone's feeding him the puck and he's on a good team? And I don't know, like, he's finished. Would he fit in with, like, maybe Florida with Barkov? Possibly. He doesn't play that rough physical style, but maybe, you don't necessarily have to. Like, Reinhart doesn't either, right? So I just think the way Florida's built, like, everyone just plays a tough brand of hockey. They know how to win. So I don't know if, I'm just thinking of connections. I bet you someone takes a swing on him cheap and just, gives him a shot and see if he could, like, replicate that. I think he needs to be surrounded by good players to score goals. He's not a driver. But besides that, Rick, I don't really have a ton of analysis on the free agents. I think we spoke about Trouba, Carlson, Line A little bit. We got some, like, other depth pieces that, I wonder with Pittsburgh too, like Kevin Hayes was a veteran that was in and out of the lineup. Like, does he get a shot somewhere else on a cheap deal? He's from Boston. Maybe Boston brings him in. I don't know. That's just someone I'm thinking off the top of my head about. But Rick, what else do you got? Because I hope listeners we're not missing anything here. I mean, I know we had the small trade of Nils Hoglander going from Vancouver to Nashville. We were just talking about Nashville. You got to think Nashville's trying to compete again, right? And get in the playoffs and keep their squad together. Like, they were right on the cusp last year. That's when they traded Cole Smith and Dowd. It was Cole Smith and somebody else, but, like, they got rid of a few players and got some picks, but they still have, like I said, Stamkos, O'Reilly, Roman Josi, Saros. Like, their team's not bad. Philip Forsberg. Like, those guys bounce back again and they stay healthy, and you add a few pieces around the perimeter, like the Hoglanders, the Coltons, the Jack Drurys, like, you start improving a bit. Like, they, don't count Nashville out. They're a little bit of a sneaky team, and they have some cap space too. They could sign somebody as well. So, what else you got, Rick? What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about here? We had Garnet Hathaway go to Florida. I don't know if we mentioned that from Philly.
Another team that's tougher.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, just to dabble into that, it's not like breaking news, red alert, but just another hockey team that gets tougher and plays that tough brand of hockey. Definitely trying to compete with Rod the Bod, Brendan Moore's Hurricanes there, clearly. I think them getting a guy like Brady Tkachuk, we mentioned all last podcast, getting now Gudas, Radko Gudas there, just wrecking balls, right? We could go on and on about the style of hockey they play. So, it's, yeah. It's just it's a weird market, right? It's a weird market. You got guys like Liney out there. You got some defensemen. I couldn't even really, I'll give the fans and folks Rick's picks real quick. I got 3 Rick's picks right for you while we're on it. This is what it's gonna be. Patty Kane to Buffalo. I said it before earlier podcasts. I think it's just going to be a fit. Jack was bringing up Toronto. Maybe he goes and plays with Austin Matthews, but I think the hometown will win your heart over every time. Why wouldn't it? I feel like the way the Buffalo run was, I feel like, how does that not make you want to go and experience that, especially your hometown? If I'm Patty Kane in this point in my career, I think I got to sign home. That's just me personally. Next, I want to talk about Kuzmenko going to the Rangers. I feel like, why not, number one? Number two, Rangers have the space. Depends on who you ask, they really need D, right? You could argue. But I think with the Russian connection going on there, right, I think that they will want to get another fellow Russian there, get in the locker room there and get a little familiarity like we were talking about. So who knows? I mean, former 30 goal scorer. I mean, I'm not saying he's career's over with. Just we talk about change of scenery and all this stuff. Maybe he takes his talents to Broadway. Who knows? And then lastly, I said it earlier this episode. I think we might see Sergei Bobrovsky in Pittsburgh, man. We might see him there. I don't know. I mean, if Florida doesn't pay the man, if he's asking for too much, and the Penguins have all this cap space according to Puckpedia, I mean, who else are you gonna get to fill your goalie slot? Seriously.
Yeah, Rick, good point. I've heard for Bobrovsky, Toronto. I've heard that rumor, which could make sense. You bring in a pedigree goalie that has won cups before. You know what you're getting. Everything you hear about Bobrovsky is he's ultra competitive, and I know that sounds cliche because most professional athletes are, but he's very much dialed in. Like he cares much more about winning than he does like other things that maybe other people care about, I guess. So yeah, I mean, could he fit in Pittsburgh? Yeah, I think that's not a bad fit. I could see the fit in Toronto a little more. Like I'm starting to be a little more bullish on Toronto just because they have the new management. You draft McKenna. Looks like Matthews is staying there at least for now. You still got Nylander. You got, you add Radish. I do think like they could be a playoff team again. Like I wouldn't pick them to win the cup, but I think they're making some smart choices there. So yeah, Bobrovsky's an interesting one. I think the Panthers have like $7 million in cap space, or maybe a little under that. So they could potentially still sign him. Maybe they're still talking and negotiating. I don't know what's going on with that. I almost feel like if Florida was going to sign him, he'd probably be signed already. So like, does Florida have a different plan with that cap space? Maybe it's Hellebuck still. Like we haven't brought Hellebuck up, but like, is it possible he's still directing his way to Florida? I don't know what Florida would give up asset wise. I've heard they will not give up Anton Lundell, which I don't blame them. But if Hellebuck's forcing his way to Florida, maybe they figure out a way to get that done, and that's why they're holding on to that cap space. But as far as Bobrovsky goes, yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh's not a bad fit. I like that idea. That's a creative one. I've heard Toronto, but we'll have to wait and see because, quite frankly, I don't really have a educated guess. I just think Toronto could be a fit, but I don't know. He is older. Does he want to stay in the Florida area? Does he want to stay in the United States? Does he want to move to Canada? I don't know. I don't know for sure, but it is an interesting topic. And to go back to the Patty Kane question you brought up, I like that a lot. Like I thought of Toronto at first just because it's close to Buffalo and he could go play with Austin Matthews, and he's like, now he's kind of a specialist Kane, right? He's not the Patrick Kane he once was, but he could bring leadership. He's won before. He could tell those stories. He could still contribute on the power play and be like, so, but I like Buffalo for him. I mean, I've read something about Patrick Kane's dad that he doesn't fly. Like he doesn't like to fly on airplanes. So he drives to all of his games. So if he's in Buffalo, I'm sure his dad can make it to much more games. He could just be a season ticket holder, but Buffalo's on the come up. They're on their way up. They're they lost Tuck. They lost, Byram, but they brought in Zellweger, but they still, they extended Zach Benson for several years, who looks like Brad, the new age Brad Marchand, in my opinion. So they're doing some good things there. That would be a great story, great fit if he goes to Buffalo to finish his career and potentially take a shot at winning a Stanley Cup. So I do like that. And transitioning, Rick, I did want to talk while we still have the time about the Zach Werenski situation, the rumors, which I'm sure all you fans have heard about already. But, apparently they had a sit down with him, and I don't think he's made a formal trade request, but he's not like committing to saying that he'll sign there long term. So I can't blame him, right? Like Columbus hasn't necessarily done the greatest job at building a winning culture, winning team there. They've been all over the place for a while. A lot of players go there and they end up wanting to leave. And they have to fix that. I don't know how you fix that exactly. I think they just have to get better at drafting and developing. And I've never really spent time in Columbus. I don't know about you, Rick. I've heard good things. I've heard it's like a nice place to live with a family, and it's economically, it's a good place to live. There's not much traffic and stuff. So, but I haven't spent time there, so I don't know for certain. But I think a big part of it's the winning, and they haven't been winning. And a lot of players leave. Like Panarin left. Rick Nash ended up leaving back in the day, right? Like, it just seems like a lot of the star players don't want to play there, and that has to change. They have to do something, and it's kind of sad because Columbus is like a big sports city. This isn't. Not to pick on Seattle, which we'll talk about soon, like Columbus, I think, is a stronger sports city than Seattle. I don't know if you disagree with me on that. I mean, I know you got the Seattle Seahawks and stuff, but still, like Columbus, you talk about like the hockey, the basketball, right? Like just just everything. Like the college sports there are huge. So it just brings me to like, what does the GM of Columbus do? Because like apparently he hasn't been too receptive to the idea. Like they tried to bury the story because he doesn't want it getting out. But Werenski has a no movement clause, so it's going to be similar to Tkachuk or Larkin, where he says, I want to go to one team, a couple of different teams. I've heard rumors, I didn't come up with this myself, but I've heard him going to Dallas for Thomas Harley and maybe something else, which I think that could be a smart move for Dallas, especially if Werenski signs long-term. I think Werenski's the better player. He just won a Norris Trophy. He's 28 years old. He had 81 points last year as a defenseman on a team that, not to throw dirt on Columbus, they weren't that great. It's not like Werenski had 81 points on Florida or Colorado or something like, yeah. And I don't know, man. It's sad for Columbus. Like I would like to see them start making some positive steps and turning into, a well-respected franchise that like players want to stay there. But look, Werenski, he has one career and he wants to win. And if he doesn't see the writing on the wall that it's going to happen in Columbus, he's going to do what Matthew Tkachuk did and all these other players that are just like, you know what, I'm going to try to direct myself to a team I want to be on. And I could see making good management decisions, building a good roster, making good trades, nice place to live, et cetera. So I think Dallas is a good fit. I would say Florida's a good fit because you could say that for anyone. I just don't know. They're going to run out of cap space and assets at some point. Not everyone could go to Florida, right? So especially if they end up getting Hellebuck. But I don't know. Could he go to Vegas? Could he go to the Rangers? I mean, that'd be cool to see him go to the Rangers. But he's from Michigan. Would he go to Detroit? I don't know. I know he's tight with Dylan Larkin, and Larkin's requesting a trade out of there because he doesn't like that situation. I'm sure they talk. So Nashville would be a cool fit. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. So we'll see. This obviously the story's still developing, but I just thought it's worth bringing up. It's newsworthy. You got anything to add on Werenski? You got any places you could see him going, and anything like Columbus could do to maybe fix this situation a bit?
Well, I don't know about fixing the situation, but what I do know is if you do move on from Werenski, I think you got to also deal Marchenko. When you're losing a guy like Werenski, as good as Marchenko is, Werenski's the better player. But if you're going to lose Werenski, not lose, if you're going to move on from Werenski, you got to move on from Marchenko and just go full, rip the Band-Aid. Yeah, exactly. Similar to what I brought up with Hellebuck last pod. If you're going to move Hellebuck, I think you should move on from Kyle Connor and just do the full-blown thing at this point, too. Just get assets, rebuild, exactly that. It's you never know what to believe with all the rumors and all this stuff and all the fits and all these things. But if he was to stay, right, and things to fix, right? I mean, seriously, with such a weak market, it's not like you can go, hey, I can do this cop-out answer and say, go sign the best guy, look at this guy, 30-goal scorer, get him, and, and there's your fix. But it's not like that. So, I don't even have an answer. Do you trade for a guy? But who are you going to trade? Your every first-round pick you have, 2 of them, 3 of them, whatever it is for the next so on and so forth years. Who's taking that? Who? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's a tough spot. It genuinely is. So good luck.
Yeah, you can make a good point because like you see it all the time online. Like, Werenski will give you you have like fans that come up with these trade scenarios. Like, we'll give you these 4 prospects that aren't working out and a first round pick. It's like Columbus, if they're trading Werenski, they have to get something back that's like not a green banana, right? Like they need someone that's like, sure, they'll probably get a pick too because he's that caliber of player. They'll probably get a couple picks, but they need like a legit prospect or a player. It's going to be more of a hockey trade, I think. Like there's fits. I mean, could you see Werenski with the Rangers playing with Fox? I could see that now as a Rangers fan. Maybe it's my biased brain working, but he could fit anywhere. He really can. It's going to be more about where he wants to go because he's going to have to sign an extension. And I don't think a team's going to give up a plethora of picks and prospects and players to get Werenski if he's going to be there for 1 year. So, I mean, Tampa Bay could be a fit. You know, Victor Hedman's only getting older, and he was out for a lot of the season last year. They just lost Radish. Their blue line's a little bit. Yeah, their blue line's not looking that great, to be honest. I mean, you got McDonough, but he's getting older. Could Werenski be the guy there? I could see that. What does Tampa give up? I don't know. Like, I don't know what they could give up. Probably just picks if they have enough to give up. And, I mean, you got, like, Sam O'Reilly is a good prospect there, but, like, they don't have, like, it's hard, man. It's like that's why, like, when these GMs don't make the trades right away, you start looking at it yourself, like, you know, the good team that he wants to go to, like, they probably don't have a ton to give you. They're not going to give you Braden Point or someone. Like, it's now you're adding Werenski and now you're losing your best center. It just, that doesn't really make sense. I mean, it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens with Werenski. Does he play out? Maybe he just plays next year in Columbus. They revisit it next year. Maybe that's the best thing Columbus could do is just say, hey, give us 1 more year and see how we do. Maybe we make the playoffs. Maybe you change your mind a bit on us. That's possible because he's still signed the year after that. So they could always trade him next summer. That might be the smartest thing they could do. But you don't want him walking for nothing, though. You know, that's for sure. So, yeah, and there's the Marchenko rumors are tied into the Werenski rumors too. So, you know, they're in a little troubling situation there in Columbus, and I think the best thing they might be able to do is just try to get in the playoffs and make some noise next year, and maybe that changes the minds of both of them, Werenski and Marchenko, and just the whole league in general on their outlook on Columbus. But Rick, we have to talk about the Jason Robertson situation too. A lot of rumors coming out about him. Reportedly, I think it was Frank Saravelli was talking about Robertson having a trade done, Dallas having a trade done with Seattle, and Seattle offered him $15.6 million for 8 years, and he turned it down apparently, like 120 something million. I mean, the nerve to turn down 120 million it's pretty cool actually. If you're just like, I'm good, I don't need that, I'll go. So, you know, but yeah, I can't picture myself ever turning 120 million down. So, but the Robertson thing's weird. I think he's a very good player, pure goal scorer, scored 40s. I think I don't know how many. 2 40-goal seasons. I wouldn't say he's one-dimensional. Like he's a good player all around, but he's not the full package. Like he's not, you know, if he's not scoring goals, I don't know what else he's really doing, but he is scoring goals like every year. So you can't take that away from him. Goals are worth a lot of money in the NHL. So you feel bad almost for Seattle. You remember when they took a big swing at Panarin too, and he didn't want to go to Seattle. They offered him a lot of money, more than LA, and he didn't want to go there. So I've never been to Seattle. I can't speak from experience, but I mean, not to go down the road with Seattle. Like, I've heard some things about Seattle, you know, big homeless population, just, you know, a lot of maybe some things going on in downtown that people don't love, especially if you're wealthy. And, you know, I'm just saying, just do your own research, folks. I mean, I'm not making this up, but I've never been there. I'm sure there's great, beautiful spots about Seattle and stuff like any other city. But it does suck. There's got to be something to it that these players don't want to go there. You got to feel bad for management. I've heard that their facility is unbelievable. They put a bunch of money into it. So once again, I've never been there to Seattle. I've never visited there, so I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just going off what I'm hearing. But it's, you know, the thing with Robertson that gets me a little bit is like, it's one of those, like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right, Rick? He wants the mega money, max money, but he also wants to be in a contender in a place he wants to live. Well, you do have to give and take a bit, right? So if you want to be in Dallas, you're probably going to have to take $12.5 million, not 15. And now you're in Dallas, nice place to live, good tax situation, good team, chance to win. You're comfortable there. You're already successful there. They can't give you $15.6 million. They're not going to give you $4 million more than Rantanen. I don't even know if they could afford to do it, but they do have an internal structure there. And, you know, Dallas is kind of sticking up for themselves and saying, look, we're not giving you 16, 17 million. Like, look what Minnesota did with Kaprizov, but I'd argue Kaprizov's a better all-around player than Robertson. I'd rather have Kaprizov than Robertson if I had the choice. So I think Robertson's going to have to maybe humble himself a bit and take a $12.5 million from Dallas if he wants to stay there. Because like we spoke about teams that have cap space. Pittsburgh, I'm sure, could offer him more than Dallas can. Does he want to go to Pittsburgh? I don't know. We'll see what happens, but he has arbitration rights, so I believe it would be a 1-year award through arbitration, and he'd become an unrestricted free agent after that. So that just causes a problem for Dallas, though, because the next trade deadline, it's like if you're in a spot to win, you don't want to trade Robertson, but if you don't trade him, you're losing him for nothing if you can't sign him. So I'm sure Dallas would, if they know they can't sign him, would rather get another good player to replace him, some assets, go with their team, and maybe make a trade at the deadline, collect assets to do that, and do your best to replace Robertson by committee. But yeah, interesting. Is there any fits like I'm not thinking of that maybe you could see Robertson going, or do you think he ends up staying in Dallas?
You bring up all those details with that, and if they get screwed, next season they're in a playoff contention, and then if they don't wheel and deal next year and all this stuff, and you want to keep them because you're going on a good run and all this stuff, and then you lose them next season for nothing. I totally get it. So, we talk about like, hey, maybe he goes to the Devils. That's a cool fit, but they're not really competing. Maybe even, I brought up the Penguins, maybe goes to the Penguins. Not to just repeat myself from earlier, maybe that's a good fit. They are and win now if you're going to keep the big three together, right? I know I'm circling back to that, but not to cherry pick on that, but it's true. I mean, seriously, if maybe he goes there, that's off the top of my head right now, right this second. I could see them taking a stab at it, especially with the cap space. So,
got one for you, Rick. Two actually. One might not make a lot of sense, and one maybe does. But one I was going to say was Detroit. Like, could you see him sign? Apparently, he's from Michigan. Do you think maybe they already explored that? Maybe he doesn't want to go to Detroit, or do you think that's something that we could see worked out this summer? Another one I'm saying, and I'm not just saying this because you're an Islanders fan. Islanders have a lot of assets, and they do have some cap space. Do you think that's a possibility? You think like they could fit him in, and you think Darsh would be he seems to be kind of aggressive. You think he would take a big swing at Robertson?
So, as much as I would love that would be great. I just don't see it only because it comes down to like you can't have the best of both worlds, right? You're turning down $120 million to go play to not go play in Seattle there, and with all this, right? If you want to win, don't you think you're gonna have to make some sacrifices? I mean, he's an NHL player. I'm sure his whole career he had to make some sacrifices to get to the point that he's at today. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to, go win a cup. Look at your situation now in Dallas, right? Yeah. I think he'll stay in Dallas before he ever winds up on the New York Islanders, and I'm a New York Islanders fan. I wish they would get him. I don't think it happens. Do I think they should try to? Yeah. Why the hell not? Why wouldn't you? Yeah. I just think about like why would you leave? I feel like it's taking a step back. If you go to the Islanders, and if you want to win, you're gonna have to sacrifice some money. Right? I mean, that's just how it works. You see it in other sports. I mean, Tom Brady took a pay cut, won some championships, built around himself. I don't get why you wouldn't stay in Dallas. I don't get why you wouldn't entertain $120 million in your lifetime. I mean, that's just crazy. I understand Seattle's not in the win now, but you can't have the best of both worlds. So, I don't know, man. It's tough. I could see him if all in the perfect world, right? Maybe he really winds up going in Pittsburgh. Other than that, if he chooses to sacrifice some money, maybe he goes to the Detroit Red Wings. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe he winds up going there, goes back home, right? And maybe that's where Larkin winds up as well. Transition to Larkin here.
Yeah. Hey, good point, Rick. The Islanders thing I just kind of thought of like out of the blue, and just I know they got some good prospects, and Darsh could be aggressive, and they want to make the playoffs next year. You got Schaefer, the new arena. I just thought maybe they may take a big swing, and no one's really talking about them. But yeah, you make good points, and yeah, I mean to transition into Dylan Larkin, like we'll see. I haven't. All I keep hearing is just that it's the same teams: Minnesota, Vegas, Florida. I think Dallas too. I think he put Dallas on his list. So we'll see what happens. I think Yzerman's going to grind it out. And like I said, like at a certain point you have to do business and swallow your pride at certain points where it's like, I guess it's easy for me to say that, right? I'm not in his chair and like it's a big job and you don't want to lose your captain for nothing, but I'm sure there's a decent package out there from Minnesota, and I'm sure, I don't know about Florida, I don't know what they have to give up anymore, but I'm sure Vegas has a decent package too. They accumulated some assets from the Rangers for Dorofeyev. I don't know Thomas Hertl's contract status as far as movement clauses, but like, could you package Hertl with a pick? And I know they don't have a ton of prospects, but like some picks, Hertl, and would that get it done? I don't know. I just think Yzerman's going to have, it is what it is. Like these players, we've spoke about it in the last podcast, and like Larkin has the control. Like you're not trading him to Seattle. I'm sure if Larkin was like, I want to go to Seattle, I'm sure Seattle would give Yzerman a ton of good assets that Yzerman would like. But the player has the control right now, and Larkin's going to direct where he wants to go. It's his career. He gave Detroit a long time, a chance to build, and that's just the way it goes. And we've spoke about it before. If it was the other way around and Larkin didn't have a no movement clause, no trade clause, and he was struggling, Yzerman would probably trade him at the first chance he got, and he wouldn't ask him where he wants to go. He would trade him wherever he got the best return from, and that's what general managers do. So I have no problem with Larkin directing himself where he wants to go. He earned that clause. But Rick, talked about Robertson, Werenski, the draft. Did you have anything to add on the draft or any of the players that got traded? Do you have any free agents in mind that you could think of that are going to get traded anywhere?
He meant signed. We all know it's all good. But yeah, real quick, just to sprinkle these in, a little bonus Rick's picks here. Boone Jenner, right? Tony D. I think he's going to the Nashville Predators. I think that's a culture fit right there. That's all I'm gonna say. Tony D re-signing with the Islanders is what I like. That's well earned. I think they got him on a bargain last year, but well earned contract. I think it's a good fit. I'm actually a little shocked that he re-signed. I didn't know if he really wanted to play here or not, but hey, he signed the contract. He's with us for another 2 years. $9 million, 4.5 each year, and shit, man, welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad I just mentioned that to you, Rick, because I wanted to bring that up when I seen that. I've always liked Tony D when he was on the Rangers. Dynamic skater, offensively talented, not the biggest guy, but he's pretty tough. And he had the whole falling out with the Rangers situation, which got patched up, and really, he had to like rebuild his own career. Right, he had to go over to Russia and play there, and then come up on a league minimum contract. So he had his ups and downs, but the guy's definitely talented, and I guess it's a good fit there on the island. I guess he likes it, which is good for you. That's cool because he's a good player. Obviously likes playing with Schaefer, and their blue line's not bad, so he adds a little punch to the back end where it's not all on Schaefer. He could kind of wheel and deal and make things happen, get the puck into forwards' hands, and he's from I think South Jersey or Philly area, so he's not too far from home. So. I'm sure he wants to be on the Northeast, but yeah, Rick, I don't know if you got anything else to add. I mean, I kind of took Rasmus Anderson on Vegas still isn't signed. I don't know if they're going to sign him or, what's the hold up with that. He'll end up a free agent if they don't. But besides that, Rick, I think we're kind of done here unless you got anything to add.
Yeah, no, Jack, that really wraps it up. Listeners, followers, don't be shy. We say it every pod. Don't be shy. Let us know. Give us your predictions. Give us your trade predictions. Where does Larkin land? Where do these free agents and UFAs land? Where does Robertson land? Where does Bobrovsky land? Let us know. Talk about it. Let's talk about it, folks. But yeah, don't be shy. Let us know. Jack, any last words?
No, Rick. That's really it. I mean, what a week it's been in the hockey world, and we appreciate all you guys listening. There's a lot going on. It's like I said, it's the fun time of year for any hockey fan, any hockey nerd like me and Rick. And I think we are going to see another couple interesting or big trades within the next week leading up to free agency and during free agency. And we'll be talking to you guys again next week. And as always, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
All right. Have a happy 4th of July. Don't blow your hands off. And the Puck House is out.